Have you ever typed a prompt into an AI image generator, seen something amazing pop up, and thought, wait a minute, is this art? And if it is it mine? It's a question that gets right to the heart of creativity, technology, and the law. And right now, one country is drawing a very clear, very firm line in the sand. Let's break down exactly what's going on. So let's just dive right in. Imagine you spend an hour, maybe more, getting the perfect prompt. You describe the scene, the feeling, the style, everything. And the AI spits out something incredible. You feel like a director, right? You made this happen. So do you own the copyright to it? Well, if you were to ask the top authority on this in Colombia, the National Directorate of Copyright, or DNDA, the answer is a flat, unambiguous no. And this isn't just some opinion piece, it's a policy they're actively enforcing. It's one of the clearest legal positions on AI and authorship we've seen anywhere in the world. Okay, so here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll look at the official stance. Then, we'll get into the key legal idea they're using, this concept of the imprint of personality. We'll even peek inside some actual rejection letters. After that, we'll explore the tricky cases where humans and AI work together. And finally, we'll talk about what this all means for creators moving forward. All right, so first up, what is the official position here? It all comes down to that government body, Colombia's National Directorate of Copyright, the DNDA. So look, this isn't a one-off thing. This isn't just about one piece of art. The DNDA has a very consistent track record now of denying copyright for anything generated solely by AI. And for them, this isn't some new rule they just invented. They see it as simply applying the laws that are already on the books in Colombia and for the wider Andean community. So what are these long-standing rules? To really get why they're making these calls, we have to understand the legal cornerstone of their entire argument. And it all revolves around this really fascinating idea they call the imprint of personality. So the whole argument really rests on this simple but incredibly powerful foundation. According to the law that governs Colombia, an author is defined very explicitly as a physical person who performs the intellectual creation. That's it. Not a company, not a machine, not an algorithm, a person, a human being. And that reads right into the next critical piece. A work, or obra, isn't just any old output. To be considered a copyrightable work, it has to reflect the imprint of the author's personality. It's got to have a piece of that human creator's unique spirit in it, their choices, their feelings, their essence. This whole philosophy is just perfectly captured in a quote from the legal scholar Delia Lipsick, which the DNDA uses all the time. It says, "Learning, thinking, feeling, composing, and expressing works are actions that can only be carried out by human beings." Basically, in their eyes, real creation is a fundamentally human thing. And this leads them to a really critical distinction. On the one hand, you have a tool. Think of a camera, or Photoshop, or a paintbrush. The D&A says a human uses that tool to directly execute their vision. The person is in control. But on the other hand, you have an AI generator. The way they see it, a human just gives it instructions, the prompt, but it's the AI's algorithm that actually does the creating. The human doesn't have that same direct control. Okay, so that's the legal theory, but how does it actually play out in the real world? Let's take a look inside the actual rejection letters and see what kind of creations are getting turned away. Check out this recent case. A creator developed a whole digital influencer persona called Celia Dreams using AI. He gave the AI super detailed prompts about her looks and style, but when he tried to copyright her, the DNDA shot it down. Their reasoning? The final images were made by the program, not by him. And Celia isn't alone, not by a long shot. Just look at this table. You've got a psychedelic bicycle painting, illustrations for a book, an image about aromatic plants, all made with different AI tools, all submitted for copyright. And all of them denied for pretty much the exact same reason. The DNDA decided the work was a product of the algorithm, not the direct intellectual effort of a person. So here's the absolute heart of the issue. Why isn't a brilliant, super detailed prompt enough to make you the author? Well, the DNDA's logic is actually crystal clear on this. They see a prompt as just an idea, and copyright law has always protected the expression of an idea, not the idea itself. In their model, you provide the idea, the prompt, but the AI does the expressing, so the person who writes the prompt can't be the author of the final picture. Okay, but this brings up a much trickier question, and it's probably the one a lot of you are thinking about right now. What happens when it's not just a prompt? What if a person goes in and actively edits and changes what the AI created? Where does the DNDA draw that human line?
Yeah, this is the big one. This is the key question for almost every artist who's actually using AI in their workflow today. Is that partnership, that back and forth between a human and the machine, is that enough to get you copyright protection?
So there's this fascinating case that tested this exact boundary. An applicant used AI to generate 62 images for a book, but he didn't just stop there. He then took all those images into Photoshop and did what he called a detailed intervention. Adding shadows, fixing colors, putting in new graphic elements and text to make it all fit the story. He argued that this extra work was his creative contribution.
And the ruling? He was denied. And their reason is so important. They said that the applicant didn't sufficiently prove that his personal creative contribution was significant enough to make him the author of the final work. His edits were seen as just touching up something the AI had already created.
So, after all that, where does this leave creators in Colombia, or really anyone watching how this all unfolds around the world? What's the big takeaway for the future of art and law? Well, the bottom line is what you could call the human threshold. In Colombia right now, to be seen as an author and get that copyright, your creative input has to be substantial. It's got to be way more than just giving instructions or doing a few edits after the fact. You have to be able to show that your own personality, your own intellect, was the main creative force behind the final piece. And all of this leaves us with a massive question for the future. Colombia has drawn a line based on centuries of copyright law. But as AI gets more sophisticated, as it changes from a simple tool into what feels like a real creative partner, is our very definition of what it means to be an author going to have to evolve right along with it? That's the question that artists, lawyers, and all of us are going to have to answer next.